She's only marrying him for money. Classic gold digger. My future mother-in-law said it loud enough for the entire table to hear, not even pretending to whisper, like I was invisible or too stupid to understand English. 14 members of the Ashford family nodded along, exchanging knowing glances over their wine glasses, absolutely certain they had me figured out. What they didn't know was that the woman they'd just called a gold digger had signed the largest private tech acquisition in Colorado history 6 months ago, and the lawyer walking through the restaurant door was about to make their $15 million net worth look like pocket change. Before I tell you what happened when that prenup hit the table, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And ask yourself, if you had the power to destroy people who humiliated you, would you do it quietly or make sure they never forgot? My name is Eliza Bennett. I'm 31 years old, and I'm worth approximately $2.1 billion. I don't look like a billionaire. That's intentional. I drive a Honda. I buy clothes from normal stores. I live in a modest apartment in downtown Denver that costs less per month than what most people assume I spend on shoes. I don't wear designer labels, I don't carry expensive bags, and I've never once shown up anywhere in a private jet. This isn't because I'm humble. It's because I grew up poor, and some habits never leave you. My father was a janitor. My mother cleaned houses for wealthy families in Aspen, scrubbing their toilets while they skied and pretended she didn't exist. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment in a part of Colorado that tourists never see, wearing secondhand clothes and eating government-subsidized lunches. I learned early that rich people treat you differently when they think you're poor. They talk over you. They make assumptions. They reveal exactly who they are because they don't think you matter enough to hide it. I also learned that I was smarter than most of them. By 16, I'd taught myself to code. By 19, I dropped out of community college to build my first app. By 24, I'd founded a cybersecurity company that specialized in protecting financial institutions from data breaches. By 29, I'd sold that company to a tech conglomerate for $2.3 billion. After taxes and fees, I walked away with $2.1 billion in liquid assets. I didn't announce it. I didn't change my lifestyle. I just quietly became one of the wealthiest women in Colorado while continuing to look like someone who couldn't afford bottle service. It wasn't a disguise. It was a filter. When you look rich, everyone wants something from you. When you look ordinary, you get to see who people really are. That's how I met Daniel Ashford. We met at a coffee shop in Boulder. He was reading a book I loved. I made a comment about the author. We talked for 3 hours and closed down the cafe. He asked for my number. I gave it to him. Daniel was different from the men I usually encountered. He wasn't trying to impress me with stories about his startup or his investment portfolio. He was a high school English teacher, passionate about literature and completely uninterested in wealth. When he told me his family had money, I figured he meant comfortable. A nice house in the suburbs. Maybe a vacation home. I didn't realize he meant $15 million, multiple properties, and a family business in commercial real estate that had been operating for 3 generations. To Daniel, his family's wealth was almost embarrassing. He'd rejected a position in the family company to teach. He drove an old Subaru. He lived in a rented apartment, even though his trust fund could have bought a mansion. We were alike in that way, both trying to be more than our bank accounts. What Daniel didn't know, at least not at first, was that my bank account was considerably larger than his family's entire operation. I told him the truth after 6 months of dating. We were lying in bed one Sunday morning, talking about the future, and I realized I couldn't marry someone who didn't know who I really was. I need to tell you something, I said. About my job. You work in tech consulting, he said. You told me that. I did work in tech consulting. Then I sold my company. For a lot of money. How much is a lot? I took a breath. $2.1 billion. Daniel stared at me for a long moment. Then he started laughing. You're joking. I'm not. It took 3 days for him to fully process it. He Googled the acquisition. He found the press releases, the financial reports, my name buried in documents I'd tried to keep private. He came back to me with a look I'd never seen before. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted you to love me, not my net worth. I do love you. I know. That's why I told you. Daniel proposed a month later with a ring he'd saved for. Not one I could have bought 1,000 times over. It was perfect. Then I met his family. The Ashfords were exactly what I'd expected from people who'd been comfortable for 3 generations. They had the casual arrogance of those who'd never worried about money, combined with the insecurity of people who suspected they hadn't actually earned it. Daniel's mother, Victoria, was the worst. She'd married into the Ashford name and defended it like she'd built the fortune herself. She was all passive-aggressive comments and calculating glances, measuring everyone by their clothes, their cars, their apparent worth. From the moment we met, she hated me. "So, Eliza," she said at our first dinner together, "what do your parents do?" My father was a janitor. My mother cleaned houses. The table went silent. Victoria's smile tightened. "How humble. And you work in computers?" "Tech consulting. That must be nice. Flexible hours. Working from coffee shops." She glanced at her husband. "Daniel tells us you live in a small apartment downtown." "I do." "Well." She sipped her wine. "Daniel has always been attracted to unconventional choices." I knew what she meant. I was the unconventional choice. The downgrade. The mistake her son was making. Over the following months, the comments continued. Victoria made sure I knew I wasn't welcome in her family. She questioned my clothes, my background, my education. She wondered aloud how Daniel would support me once we were married. She suggested, repeatedly, that I was marrying above my station. I let it slide. I was playing a longer game. Daniel wanted to tell them the truth about my wealth, but I asked him not to. I wanted to see how they'd treat me when they thought I had nothing. I wanted documentation of who they really were. And I got it. The rehearsal dinner was held at an upscale steakhouse in Denver. The Ashfords had reserved a private room, decorated with flowers and candles and the quiet confidence of people who expected to be impressed by their own generosity. Daniel and I arrived together. The family was already seated, champagne flowing, conversations humming. Victoria was holding court at the head of the table, dressed in designer everything, her jewelry probably worth more than my childhood apartment building. We took our seats. I ordered a salad, knowing it would give Victoria something to comment on. She didn't disappoint. "Just a salad, dear? You should enjoy yourself. This might be the nicest restaurant you've ever been to." I smiled. "I'm not very hungry." The dinner proceeded with the usual small talk. Daniel's brother talked about his new boat. His sister discussed her vacation home renovations. His father mentioned a golf trip to Scotland. All of it was performance, a subtle reminder of everything they had and everything they assumed I didn't. Then Victoria made her move. She waited until the main courses arrived, until everyone was comfortable and slightly tipsy, until she had maximum audience for her performance. "You know," she said loudly, "I've been thinking about this wedding, about how quickly it all came together." Daniel tensed beside me. "Mother, I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." Victoria looked around the table, gathering allies. A girl from her background, no family money, no connections, suddenly engaged to an Ashford? It raises questions. "What kind of questions?" Daniel asked coldly. "The obvious kind." Victoria didn't look at me directly. She didn't have to. She's only marrying him for money. Classic gold digger. We've all seen it before. Murmurs of agreement rippled around the table. Daniel's aunt nodded. His brother smirked. His sister studied her manicure like she'd heard nothing. I kept eating my salad. "Mother, that's enough," Daniel said. "Someone has to say it, dear. Before you make a mistake you can't undo." Victoria finally turned to me, her smile sharp as glass. "No offense, Eliza. I'm sure you're a very nice girl. But let's be honest about what this is." I set down my fork. "What this is," I repeated quietly. "A transaction. You get the money, the name, the lifestyle. My son gets, well," she shrugged elegantly. "I'm sure he thinks he's in love." The table waited for my response. They expected tears. They expected denials. They expected me to crumble. Instead, I looked at Daniel. "Did you invite her?" He was already smiling. "She should be here any minute." Right on cue, the door to the private room opened. A woman in a tailored suit walked in, briefcase in hand. Patricia Morales, senior partner at Hartwell and Associates, one of the most prestigious estate planning firms in the country. Victoria frowned. "Who is this?" Patricia ignored her, walking directly to me. "Ms. Bennett," she said formally. "I apologize for the interruption, but you asked me to deliver this personally. The prenuptial agreement protecting your $2.1 billion in assets is ready for signing." She placed a leather folder on the table in front of me. The room went dead silent. Daniel started laughing. Not cruel laughter, just the pure, delighted laughter of someone watching a perfect plan unfold. Victoria's face went through several colors. Red, white, then a grayish purple I'd never seen on a human before. "I'm sorry," she stammered. "Did you say billion?" Patricia maintained her professional composure. "Yes. Ms. Bennett is the founder of Sentinel Cybersecurity, which was acquired by Nexus Technologies 18 months ago. She is currently one of the wealthiest private individuals in Colorado." She opened the folder, revealing the document inside. "This prenup ensures that Ms. Bennett's assets remain protected in the event of divorce. Mr. Ashford will have no claim to her fortune, her investments, or any future earnings. He has already agreed to these terms." Daniel took my hand. Happily. I looked at Victoria. Her mouth was opening and closing, but no sound was coming out. "You see, Victoria," I said calmly, "I'm not marrying your son for money. I have more money than your entire family combined. I'm marrying him because he's kind and genuine, and he loved me when he thought I was nobody. That's worth more than every dollar in my accounts." I stood up. "I wore simple clothes and drove my Honda, and let you judge me for 2 years because I wanted to see who you really were. Now I know." I turned to Daniel's father, who looked like he'd been struck by lightning. "Your family net worth is approximately $15 million. I made that much in interest last quarter. If anyone at this table is marrying for money, they picked the wrong direction." I picked up the prenup folder. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a wedding tomorrow. You're all still invited, assuming you can find appropriate apologies by morning." Daniel stood with me. He kissed my cheek in front of everyone. "I told you she was special," he said to his mother. "You just weren't listening." We walked out together. Behind us, I heard the explosion of voices, Victoria's shriek, his brother's stammered questions, his father demanding to know if this was real. The wedding was beautiful. 40 guests at a private estate I'd purchased specifically for the occasion. Victoria attended, though she didn't make eye contact with me once. She wore her expensive dress and her tight smile, and spent the entire reception looking like she'd swallowed something sour. She hasn't called me gold digger since. Daniel and I have been married for 2 years now. He still teaches high school English. I still drive my Honda. We live in a house that's nice but not extravagant, because neither of us needs to prove anything to anyone. His family has slowly accepted me, mostly because they don't have a choice. Some of them have even apologized. Victoria hasn't, not directly, but she's stopped making comments, which is almost the same thing. Last month, Daniel's brother asked me for investment advice. I gave it to him, free of charge, because I'm not petty. I'm just thorough. If you've ever been dismissed, underestimated, or written off because of how you looked or where you came from, I want you to know something. Let them assume. Let them judge. Let them reveal exactly who they are when they think you're beneath them. Then, when you're ready, show them the truth. Not for revenge. For clarity. For the pure, satisfying moment when people who thought they were above you realize they never saw you clearly at all. The best power isn't the kind you flaunt. It's the kind they never see coming. If this story hit home, share yours in the comments. And subscribe, because the next story might be the one you needed to hear.